fading. We gotta go. I'll get my car.
I brought mine.
Yours? I gotta get me one of those.
And welcome to another episode of Back Dance Discussions. And yeah, the channel is back today. Sorry for the hiatus. I had to take some personal time. And then right when I was ready to get back into YouTube, I got a cold. So I had to take more time off. So let me actually just show this little banner. Yeah, I'm back. Forgot to put the banner up. So yeah, I got a cold, and then I take some more time. And to be honest, my cold has not completely gone away yet. But you know, if I wait too much longer, it's going to be May by the time we start. So I figured, you know what? Let's just get started. Let's just get started, and I'm really excited to be back. We have a lot of streams coming up on this channel this week. You know, I got my Army of Thieves review right now, actually. And then I got Bad Batch review with Socks tomorrow. Got a Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey watch party with one of the guests on this channel and two more, or on this panel and two more. And got a Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 review with someone on this panel. So lots of great stuff coming up on the channel this week. So I wanted to update you what's going on with the Zack Snyder movie review / Rebel Moon Part 2 hype series. As you know, I've been reviewing Zack Snyder movies to hype up Rebel Moon Part 2. I was going to review all of Zack Snyder's directed movies, as well as Army of Thieves, the one that's on right now, and 300 Rise of Empire. Because of this hiatus, I had to take a little time to figure out a way to cover everything that I need to by the time that Rebel Moon Part 2 comes out. So I've had to shift some stuff around a little bit. So basically the plan is right now is I'm going to review all of the movies I intended to, with the exception of the DC movies. Man of Steel was already reviewed before I started this series, so that just left Watchmen, Batman v Superman, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. I will review those at a separate time and do something kind of special for Zack Snyder's DC movies. So I have some cool ideas for what I plan on doing with that, so be on the lookout for that. But so right now, I'm going to try to get through 300 Rise of Empire, Army of Thieves, again, what you're seeing right now, and Sucker Punch. So I'll try to get through those three movies before Rebel Moon Part 2 comes out. And actually, tomorrow during my Bad Batch review, I will also be reviewing the trailer for Rebel Moon Part 2. So lots of Rebel Moon hype on this panel. So Yeah, so let's get started. So please welcome as I bring on our first guest today, ZodWriter. How are you, man?
Hey, it's great to be back for more of Bat Dan's discussions. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really glad to be back. Glad to be back talking this stuff, and glad to be streaming again. And let's see, check on our guest. Our other guest isn't quite here yet, so we'll see. So hopefully he'll be here soon. But in the meantime, yeah, are you excited to talk about this movie today?
I am. I actually was hoping that I would get a chance to rewatch it today before the show, but I didn't get a chance to rewatch it because I got busy doing some other stuff. And before I knew it, it was time for this show. So, yeah, I mean, it's always nice to talk about a good movie, to talk about a great movie. I mean, we talk about a lot of bad movies on our channels and a lot of
Yep.
bad, CEOs of studios and stuff. And so it's nice to actually sit down and talk about something that is good, kind of like what we're doing with your X-Men, with the X-Men show, which is another great thing on your channel that more of is coming up of.
Oh yeah, next week on Tuesday. So not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday on the 2nd, Sox Zodwriter and I will be back with reviewing the X-Men series. And again, 92, not 97. We're not there yet. So I even put in the thumbnail, no spoilers for X-Men 97, because if there are any spoilers in the chat, you will get banned. Admin or no admin,
Well,
you will
I mean,
get banned.
there's no chat right now anyway, so I guess we're talking to the replay crew.
Yeah, oh yeah, exactly. But I I always talk like there is a chat no matter what, because there'll be replay crew. So, and
Yeah,
if they're watching again in the future, so that's what I'm kind of getting at there.
yeah,
So,
because it is going to take us a while to get to X-Men 97. Now, me and Socks are of course watching X-Men 97 as it airs, but you've got a long way to go. I swear you have a very very enviable task to getting to experience all this now for the first time when it's all available in one place for you to literally binge. So that's awesome.
yeah, that's the nice thing about streaming, though, is that, I mean, think about it. Before streaming and before we could record stuff, it was like if you missed a show, if you missed an episode, that was it. You would just have to pray to God you would catch it on repeat before the next episode.
Yeah, or if you missed a season, you could always get it on get it on physical media, you know. But
Yeah, assuming that your parents would buy it for you just to see one episode. And plus, it's not like it'd be available right away. I mean, the season has to finish first before it becomes available on physical media.
yeah, that's very true. That's a good point.
Yeah, we forget like how things used to be. It's so easy with streaming now to forget that like it was not easy to catch up on shows if you missed them. It's so much easier to catch up on stuff now than it was before.
Well, one thing that streaming does well, I'm still someone who supports physical media very much. I love physical media because studios can't take it away from you. But one thing that I think is nice about streaming above all else is the convenience of it, in the fact that you can watch everything around your schedule and you can just, and that's great because it saves time, it saves energy, and it makes it less stressful. If you miss something that's important to you, you can always find the time to squeeze it in eventually.
Exactly. And without further ado, let us bring on our other guest for today's show. This person, I always love having this person on the channel. He's so positive, he's so full of energy, and he's actually did a stream with a Rebel Moon actor yesterday on Skywalker's channel, and has had this actor on his own channel before. and I'm very excited to bring him on for this Rebel Moon hype series. So please welcome as I bring on Josh Herrera.
What's going on? Physical media, let's go.
All day, every day, Josh. You know, you know what happens.
I have the
sure
Snyder
do,
Con
guys.
physical media too.
I mean, Zack Snyder's all about it. We know what's up. We are like Zack. So, you said it best, ZodWriter. And thank you, Bat Dan, for that great introduction. It's good to see you back, buddy.
Yeah, it's good. It's great to be back. Yeah, I was just telling ZodWriter earlier that, at first, as you know, I had to take some personal time, but then like right after I get sick, it's just such perfect timing the way that stuff goes sometime. And I'm not completely over this cold yet, but I can't really wait too much longer because then I'm just.
Well, you sound
never gonna get-
sound okay. You don't sound like you're suffering from the cold too much right now, so that's good.
Yeah, exactly. I have an occasional cough, occasionally have to blow my nose, but when I first had the cold, it was really bad. I was cold. Like I was like literally cold. Like it was 60 degrees outside and I had to put on a winter coat.
Oh, wow.
That's how crazy. Like I broke out my electric blanket that I haven't used since I moved in the apartment just because I needed some extra warmth.
Dang, you're going through it. But hey, what doesn't kill you makes you stranger, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys ready to get into this to Zack Snyder? I guess Zack Snyder didn't direct it, but still a movie in Zack Snyder's universe.
This new movie that probably shouldn't exist, but does, surprisingly. I mean,
very true.
Yeah, which people don't not a lot of people know, but this was actually directed by the same actor who played Ludwig or Sebastian.
Yes.
Sure, he has some name that I can't pronounce.
I think this movie was his idea, wasn't it? I think this movie was between him and Zack. They came up with it. It was his, but it was essentially his brainchild, and Zack told him to go with it.
And he did a pretty good job. Like from what I understand, I don't think he has a ton of credits on his name, but
oh, we got somebody in the chat. What's up, Qatar?
Hey,
I was wondering if this was going to be gonna feel like an offline production, or if it was gonna, she was gonna start. People were gonna start heading in. What's up, Neo Sevens?
What's going on, buddy?
Thanks for stopping by.
Again, the coveted replay crew. Telling you.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. People need to remember, even if you have a poor chat on live, you can get a lot with replay crew. Never underestimate the power of the replay crew.
Oh, the replay crew is wonderful. They are the bread and butter of all of these kinds of streams. I will tell you that right now.
Yes, very true.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because certain people maybe don't always start on time, so sometimes it's just nice to just watch a replay because then hey, it's gonna start when I press play.
Yeah.
True.
Certain people got to give us 12-minute intros before their shows start. It's like, and then here's the thing: they got a 25-minute countdown, then they got a 12-minute intro, and that's if they start on time. It's like, how much extra time do you need? And the end of rant. That's all I'm gonna say. But it's annoying.
Like,
you know what I'm talking about, though, Josh, right? Isn't it crazy? Like, what are we talking about? We got to watch a whole movie before the stream starts. Like, come on, man.
I mean, to be fair, this is an Army of Thieves review, and we're almost 16 minutes in, and we haven't started reviewing Army of Thieves yet. So
yeah, but we're here, and we're talking. That's the thing. You see, that's the thing that always gets me. Like, you got your audience waiting for you, and yeah, you're gonna eventually start talking about the topic that is on the marquee. But I mean, it's like you got to get through all that prerequisite stuff first. And don't get me wrong, I love certain people's intros. I think they're great. I think they're artistic. I think they're very creative. But we don't need them to be 12 minutes long. I'm sorry. It's like you can slim those down a little bit, and then having your countdowns and all your extra stuff. It's like, my God, man. I mean, talk about pretentious. Again, end of rant. End of rant. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. But so, let's get right to it now. We've talked for a few times, and if you missed the update on this channel, catch the beginning on replay. So what I want to kind of start with for Army of Thieves is the music and the score. I guess, Josh, we'll start with you on this one. What do you think about the overall score of this movie?
Completely like not what you would expect, from a Army of the Dead prequel, right?
Oh
Like
yeah, not at all.
very light, whimsical, just like that opening scene with Sebastian.
Almost Harry Potter like.
Yes,
Like
very.
like a whimsy kind, yeah, like a real like
Yeah.
you get that almost like fantasy element where it's just like wow, yeah.
It
Agreed.
was
Like,
Hans Zimmer and Steve Mazzaro.
Mm-hmm.
so
It was
that
different
makes
from Hans.
sense because like it does kind of, have like a you can tell it's based on, it's something in Zach's world, right? Even though he didn't direct it, but it's just so different, and it was kind of described from Debbie Snyder when it was being promoted at Comic-Con as, completely unique in the sense that when do you have a prequel that's a completely different genre than what came before, right? Because this is very much like a heist movie, but it's also like a romantic comedy kind of in a sense too.
Yeah.
So
It's not a zombie movie.
with sprints of really compelling drama thrown in as well. So it's done right, man. It really
and the
is.
music really takes you on that journey, right? And it does so well at making you feel like it kind of throws you because you're just like I enjoyed this movie very much, but when you start off you're like, wait, what is this movie? But it gets you in the mood for what it's going to end up being. So I thought
right. You're thinking of a heist movie, but you're getting reminded of the Shire and stuff, and you're just like, what's going on here? Where's Frodo?
Exactly. Very much. Second back.
And I was actually just checking right now. Actually, neither of them directed Army of the Dead. It was actually Tom Holkenborg, Junkie XL, who did Army of the Dead. So these are two completely different new composers, at least in terms new in the Army franchise. I mean,
Well, they needed to be because like Josh was saying, this had to separate itself as a prequel, and it had to do it in a way that was going to thrust you into the story very, very differently. It was setting a different tone right off the bat. I guess different is the key word here.
Very.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I think of like the opening scene and they play it during the credits. Da, da, da. I can't hum it. Like I can picture in my head, but I can't like hum it well when he's like when Sebastian / D. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It's like when he's going through his whole routine that is like the day in the life of Sebastian, and just kind of showing how boring his life. It does a good job, like kind of showing how routine his life really is. Like it was so funny. Like I was just doing some errands before, or like not errands. I was in my apartment, but like doing some stuff around my apartment, like throwing out the trash, mailing some packages. And I'm just
the
like,
regular
I'm picturing that theme in my
activities.
Regular
mundane activities, yes.
And I'm just picturing that theme in my head because I just watched Army of Thieves before we started. I'm just like da 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 da. I'm just like, it's weird, but it again, like I agree, like it really did a good job showing, and this is like a common theme I'm gonna say with this movie is that it does a good job of separating itself from its Army of the Dead while at the same time feeling connected to Army of the Dead.
Yeah, I definitely agree because you end up seeing as you go along, of course, the connections and the overall plot of this movie is from a story standpoint, the music kind of shows you in a sense the world, right? Because this is a world that's kind of still, we're in a different part of the world from what happens in Army of the Dead, right? So they haven't been tainted. They're seeing some effects, right, of what's happening from a distance, but they're not in the middle of what Las Vegas is in America. So the music is just kind of like, oh, well, at least we're not, you know, you know, at least we're not dealing with zombies.
It's like we can still have those Shire-esque adventures without, you know, with Frodo and fruits and flutes and all kinds of great stuff, you know, and whimsicality and things of that nature. But it's very, very well done. And it sets us all up. It sets the mood and basically tells you you're about to experience a separate genre. And this again shows the brilliance and the creative mind of not only Dieter, but you know, Zack Snyder, of saying we're crafting a cinematic universe here. We're crafting a Snyderverse here. So we're giving you something completely different with shades of Army of the Dead, but not quite. We're gonna give it, you know, it's gonna go together like peanut butter and jelly when all is said and done. But for now, you're gonna be a little bit confused, and I really like that. I really like that approach, and the score is just beautiful when it comes to setting that tone.
Agreed.
I agree. And the guy who plays Dieter, for the sake of crediting him, is I'm so gonna butcher this, is Matthias.
Yeah, Matthias.
I have no idea how to pronounce this.
Isn't that isn't it like Schweiger or something, or
Yeah.
something? It's totally German. I can't.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's a phonetic breakdown.
What I'm gonna try to do is I'm just gonna put it in the chat and pull it up in the chat just so people can. This guy right here. This is his name.
Schweiger. Matthias Schweiger.
Did y'all hear that?
There you go,
Schweiger. There we go. Because
I should have. Had I thought about it, I would have had him doing it. I would have had him do an AI intro for this show. I completely forgot. That would have been awesome.
As long as you had the scream, you have to have the scream in.
And I would have had him, and I of course would have had him say his name because say it correctly.
Well, maybe. What up, integrity? Well, you know what, ZodWriter? Maybe on Wednesday you can have him introduce the movie we're about to watch. You can have Dieter introduce the movie we're gonna watch for Wednesday.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
I was debating whether or not I was gonna do something with kaiju, since we have so many kaiju loving people going to be on that panel. But we'll see. I'll figure it out. Oh goodness.
Yeah. Well, regardless, it'll be great. And one thing I like about this movie too, how it connects to Army of the Dead, is how they gave a story to the safe that they cracked in Army of Thieves. Because what was interesting is really in Army of the Dead, it just seems like it's just a really advanced safe. That's all we really thought about it. We didn't really think anything of it. Just owned by.
I don't know. You didn't get the impression that there was like a majestic lineage of that safe just from watching Army of the Dead, because in my mind, the way they kept talking about it as being like this impossible to crack thing, I kept thinking, my God, this has got to have a hell of a history. And to see it here, to see it depicted in the film in that way, where it actually has almost like an origin story, you're sort of like, my God, the safe is actually a character in the timeline. The safe as a character is just as important and is just as much of a character, and it's so important to Dieter's life that it's unbelievable. Like, I just love the tapestry of it all. Again, brilliant storytelling from the mind of Zack Snyder, of course.
Yeah, exactly. I guess, Josh, what do you say to that?
Yeah, no, Zach, it's funny that thank you for doing this, Dan, because it's rewatching this, I picked up new stuff, right? And when we get this intro from the mythology, right? We know Zack Snyder loves mythology, right? And kind of what you were mentioning earlier about the mundaneness of the score that Sebastian is doing, right? It's so catchy, and it kind of like you latch onto it. And Zach really by him laying out, him and Matthias laying out this mythology before us, we know it has elements of Zach, right? Because he always ties that into all his narratives. That's something that motivates him. But I started seeing something that I didn't realize about this movie, and that was that Sebastian really is at the start of his Joseph Campbellinian hero's journey in this movie. And I guess, subconsciously when I first watched it, it was there, but I didn't really, see what I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is just perfect because by showing us the mundaneness of his routine, right? He's searching for something. And I kind of started seeing elements of the Matrix actually, where Neo, is online trying to find, he knows there's more out there. He knows, right? And there was a little bit of that with the hackers, that the team is comprised of. And that mythology is something that Dieter is searching for. Like he knows it exists, it's meaningful, and he has to eventually engage with it, right? But he's trying to find ways to do that, and by doing YouTube, he finds his
that's what they did, Josh. They low-key remade the Matrix. We didn't even realize it. They low-key retold that story.
Yeah,
through the eyes of this mundane German, safe hacker, trying to think. I mean, it all makes so much sense. God, yeah, that's a brilliant point. It makes so much sense, my friend. Wow.
I started seeing him as, the Mr. Anderson of, this genre, right?
Right.
But searching, knowing that there's others like him, and ultimately, what does Mr. Anderson become Neo and find his family, and then so does Sebastian, ends up having his own evolution.
Yep.
In both Army of Thieves and in Army of the Dead, in a way,
think about it. He even got his Trinity too, just like in
very true.
Gwen and I have it on here, Karina,
who he's actually married in real life. I don't know if y'all know that. That's actually
he's married.
Or I don't know if they're married, but they're together and they have kids. I'm pretty sure.
Yes,
Sebastian and Karina.
Karina, yep.
Oh my God, that must have been so awkward scripting him turning her down when she wanted to make out with him.
That's like that, but that's probably why they did that, though, to make it ironic.
In another multiverse. Tip of the hat.
Oh, it's awesome.
But what I love about this backstory, though, is that it also like just creates a lot more backstory for Dieter in Army of the Dead when he was so excited to crack the safe. Why? I mean, think about this. He's going through a zombie apocalypse, like a zombie camp, to crack the safe. I mean, I know there's money in there, but I mean, the way Dieter's portrayed in Army of the Dead, and I guess really in Army of Thieves, not much really changes. Dieter's a pussy. Let's be honest here. Dieter is kind of a pussy. So for me to believe that this guy's going through this zombie terrain to crack a safe for money, sure. I mean, I know it's not that $250,000 is no money, but at the same time, it's still a lot to do. But this actually kind of solidifies it a lot more, because now he's doing this for Gwen. He's doing this in honor of Gwen, because it's not just about the money for him. What this does is it shows it's the quest, and this is like the final completion of his quest. So I love how they gave it a backstory for Army of the Dead. You said the ZodWriter. You said that Army of Thieves makes Army of the Dead a better movie, and I think in many aspects, such as this, I completely agree with you.
Yes, it does, because it basically elevates it, and without this, if you take honestly, if you take Army of Thieves away from Army of the Dead and say this movie, which shouldn't exist, but let's say this movie doesn't exist, and you just have Army of the Dead, you are missing something because you're not going to understand the story being woven the way that Zach and Matthias did it here. What we're getting here adds so much more gravitas and emotion, and the Joseph Campbellian elements are all being displayed so beautifully here between these two movies. It's unbelievable. It's almost like you got to watch them both back to back now, because I did that not too long ago, and I enjoyed it so much. It felt like just one long movie, and it really felt good, and it blended together really, really well.
Which one did you watch first?
I watched Army of Thieves first.
Okay, so chronological.
Yeah. And I looked at them, and I looked at it like that, like, wow, this actually makes sense. This adds so much, and it goes to show you know, Sebastian's being totally taken out of his comfort zone. He's taken out of where he is best known. His whimsical Shire is no more, and now he's the safe cracker. So he's gotta do all these things, and it's just so. I mean, honestly, I can't get over how well these movies go together, even though they don't, even though at first glance they really don't, at least not tonally. It's
Oh
more
no,
of like
no.
a great, it's more of like a great caper story versus Army of the Dead, which is a zombie action heist story. But this one is more like, yeah, this is the whimsical story that you would expect, almost campy in a way of like
Mhm.
that you would expect of like some like old school like Pink Panther type vibes. I was kind of
Yeah.
getting some old school stuff, like really like and I'm getting all of this from Army of Thieves, and it's evoking all of these memories of other movies, other storylines, other
Mhm.
everything from Pink Panther to Lord of the Rings to one of my favorite old animes, Castle of Cagliostro. All of these really, really unique things that I wouldn't associate with something from a Zack Snyder universe or another Snyderverse. It's so compelling, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you said something that's really interesting is compared to Army of the Dead, this movie makes a lot of like stereotype movie references. Is that it, like when Dieter's like making the comic, or Sebastian at this point is saying how are we all different? It's like we all have a unique set of skills for a common cause. It's like that, and then Gwen's like, yeah, it's exactly like that. And then there's how they do the flash forward, the foreshadowing. It's like we'll do a flash forward about how the plan's supposed to go, but this time it's going to actually go that way. And it's just I love how they played on both of those tropes in this movie.
I mean, that's Zack Snyder, right? He has to like, even though it wasn't directed by him, it's from his brainchild, and there's always a deconstructionist approach, right? So when I saw that scene, I was kind of like, okay, he's literally kind of taking Ocean's 11 kind of concept, and like, instead of doing like that, it's like, oh, you're actually gonna see the thing. It's not just this is not how we're gonna
Hey, he's
do it.
taking he's taking Ocean's 11 and he's turning it on its ear. He's
Yep.
really, and he's giving and not only is he turning it on its ear, he's taking the Q-tip and jamming it up the ear. Like, I got you. It's really crazy when you think
Yep.
about it. The way that it just tugs on all these heartstrings and evokes so many different films. If you actually go through it, I would say in this movie in particular, if you watch it in 3-minute increments, And then this is an idea that I have. I was going to bring up with you guys at some point today, but I might as well bring it up now. If you were to watch Army of Thieves in 3-minute increments and break it down and talk about, watch every 3-minute increment, talk about what movies or feelings this movie evokes for you. I think some of the stuff we could come up with would be mind blowing to a lot of people.
Yeah,
Especially when you
Oh, yeah.
when you take in the movie, you know, all the movie references, and then like the score that we just talked about, and just
it's definitely it's
That'd be
definitely like kind of what you're saying, Dan. You know, of course, there's the element, there's like the template of the hero's journey, right, and the call to action, and the band of mismatched ragtag heroes, right, with different sets of skills. But then there's also the deconstructionist approach of like you're saying, Zod, all these things we're gonna do with them, but we're gonna mash them all together and put them in a blender and then give it to you.
And then taking both movies together and realizing that Zack Snyder managed to make a better Suicide Squad movie than both of the Suicide Squad movies that we got from DC. I mean,
it really is a Suicide Squad.
It's just unbelievable to me. Like, for real.
It's Zack Snyder's Suicide Squad.
It's Zack Snyder's Suicide Squad with the Matrix and all these other movies thrown in, or Matthias, Matthias Schweigler or whatever. It's just like there's so many different things that you're going to garner from this through multiple viewings. And because your first time you watch it, you're just thinking, oh my God, this is just another movie, but it's a sweet movie with a lot of special sauce that only Zack Snyder can deliver. And then you turn around and you think to yourself, man, as you watch it more and more, you're like, you start to go layer by layer. And I know, Josh, Dan, we do this with movies we love, where we tend to go layer by layer with certain movies. And it's like when you get a movie, like, say, for example, a movie so well, like for me, like Back to the Future. I know the movie like the back of my hand. So if I go back and I watch Back to the Future, I automatically think, well, there's nothing I could go back and watch. There's nothing new that I'm going to get from Back to the Future. But that's where I'm wrong. Right. Because it so well, you're literally breaking these movies down to a molecular level. And as you continue to peel back the layers, it's like an onion, and you're just getting, deeper and deeper into it. And Army of Thieves has so much to unpack. You begin to realize that no, it's not just a typical movie. There's so much more to it than what is surface level. And this is what always throws everybody off with Zack Snyder. A lot of people don't have the ability to go beyond surface level when it comes to these movies. This is why they don't understand. This is why, for example, they don't understand what to us you would consider simple concepts in movies like BVS. They don't understand. They don't understand it because they're only seeing the movie as surface level entertainment. And as surface level entertainment, Zack Snyder's movies fail every time, because his movies are not made for people that just want surface level entertainment. You actually have to use your brain, and you have to be able to read between the lines and see things on so many more deeper levels. And you're not going to get that with Zack. That's why so many people were hating on Rebel Moon, because they couldn't see past the the Star Wars elements. Like, oh, it's just a Star Wars knockoff. Well, that just goes to show you how wrong you are. You're actually an ist when it comes to science fiction, because you equate everything with Star Wars, and so you expect everything to be like Star Wars. And they a lot of people did it with Army of the Dead too, where they're like, oh, just another zombie movie. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, you're missing the point. You're missing what Zack is giving us here. Zombies are not like this. Zack is taking it to a whole nother level. And Army of Thieves did the same.
You know, like that quote says, in order to understand the work, you must engage with it. Like that's what Zack telling us all, you know. Hey, be a part
Like
of it,
how
then you'll understand it.
like how Dieter engaged with the safes. Because he understood the safes because he engaged with them.
The safes were characters. The safes were Sebastian had very intimate relationships with these safes. What we don't realize is he was speaking to these safes and he understood their language.
Yep.
These safes are sentient beings in Dieter's mind. So he is communicating with them on a level that only he, the master, the master key guy, he's the only one, man, and he's the only one who can do it. But think about it. It took him a while to learn that language. As we saw throughout the movie, he didn't always know what he was doing, but he honed his craft. He took the time to get to know these beautiful safes, and romance them and woo them. And this is where, we ended up. So I mean, that in and of itself is on a whole nother level, Batman. That whole concept of getting to know these safes, like they're people, they're beings, they're intelligent beings. Because think about how smart you have to be able to crack these safes. To be the master safe cracker like Sebastian or Dieter, you got to have some skills.
I just realized this kind of makes me just realize this. In a way, like there is something that Army of Thieves and Army of the Dead have in common. They're both heist movies.
Yep, 100%.
Which makes me wonder, what about Planet of the Dead? Is that going to be a heist movie? Is it going to be they have to like storm the Zombie King's other castle to find the cure for humanity?
It's a heist movie, but it's a heist movie of a different genre.
Yeah, exactly. Because one thing that's really interesting is in general, I think Army of Thieves could stand by itself. Like in general, I think it could be a standalone movie, except for a few things. In a standalone movie, you can't just have zombies in the background and like have that not be the main focus. Unless, this movie gets away with it because it's a prequel to another movie. Like we see all the zombie stuff in the movie that came out production-wise before, but the events come after. So that's what was really interesting about this movie is just seeing like the world's reaction to the zombie apocalypse. Because think about this, whenever there's some sort of type of monster and stuff, we always see the world's reaction, the people who are directly interfacing with it. But you never ever really see it like other countries' reactions to a tragedy that doesn't really affect them. It's like in any kind of world, as gloomy as it sounds, there will be a tragedy in a world at a certain point that's not anywhere near us. And it just kind of shows that no matter what happens, people just kind of go on with their lives about it. It's like, zombies exist. Zombies, the world just found out that zombies actually exist. And I love how it's kind of being treated like not a big deal, but that honestly, I think that's actually pretty realistic. If there was a zombie apocalypse, it was contained to this little area right here. People outside the area would just be going life as normal, going to work, being Karens towards the bank tellers, going after the robbers. I thought it was so clever how they played into it, but at the same time, they used the distraction of the zombie outbreak to rob the safes. It was such a perfect way to do it.
100%. Yeah. And that's, that's kind of like the genius of it is, I think going back to Army of the Dead, you could tell that, think of when it was coming out, 2021, right after the Snyder Cut, right? It was already, a commentary. The zombies were what we were going through in our real life, right? We're being, overwhelmed with a apocalypse of our own.
Yeah,
but like,
the fandom had become zombified,
yeah, that too.
had become the victims of these zombies all around.
Yeah. And
Because they all were. I mean, if you look at that, like just for an example, release the Snyder Cut, there were zombies and pariahs everywhere. Nobody believed in it. Nobody expected it to happen. Everybody told us we were wrong. Josh, it was very, very
dream.
It
It's a
was not
cul-de-sac.
very easy.
Yeah.
It was not very easy, and this is why it makes sense that Army of the Dead was a total commentary on all of that. Absolutely.
And life, and yet, like you said, Dan, life goes on, and and things persist, and life persists, and we're here today because can't stop us, no matter what apocalypse you throw at us.
It reminds me of like there was like it was on the news somewhat recently about how aliens supposedly exist. Like they found alien dead bodies, and like I think some credible government person testified that aliens exist, and there was all these people like, okay, but I still have to pay my bills and whatnot. And people are commenting, and that's just kind of how it was in this movie. And
but I kind of hearken it to if we were to find out scientifically that it was proven that we're living in a computer simulation. I think the majority of people, of general people, if they were to find out that, hey, it's scientifically proven we live in a computer simulation, they wouldn't change their lives at all. They'd be like, hey, listen, I still got to pay my bills. I still got to go to work. I still got to do this. None of that would it just depends on it would just depend on the person. It would be like an individual thing, but like by and large, and I think most people would just go about business as usual as long as there was no direct threat to them or their life, which is why the zombie apocalypse, if it were self-contained, like you mentioned, Batman, would be something similar where people would be like, well, I still got to go to work. It doesn't affect me. The zombies aren't here yet. So, I'll worry about it when I have to worry about it.
Like going back to the Matrix, cutting that steak. I know this steak isn't real, but ignorance
is bliss. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. You're right, Zod. You're 100% right.
I like that Dieter, though, still had dreams about the zombies coming to get him. I like that there was still...
Yeah.
Because there's still going to be that fear at certain points in your life. You may not have that fear publicly, but when you're in the privacy of your own home, going to bed, you'll think about it a little bit more. But what I wonder, though, were these really just dreams, or were these other realities that Dieter was facing? Even Karina kind of brought up the point of them possibly being premonitions, and we know Army of the Dead is a time loop. So
it's a time loop in which Zack Snyder has proven quantum immortality to be a real thing, because the time loop is essentially quantum immortality. Because if you die and then you wake up in another timeline where it's very similar to the one that you came from, except you continue to exist like you didn't die. Remember, like in Army of the Dead, where they found, remnants of themselves.
Yeah.
So it's different, it's different realities. It's different realities. And of course, the many worlds interpretation simply states that whatever can happen does happen. Any choice that we could possibly make, there is a reality where we made that choice. And, how many times, did Dieter not crack the safe? How many times did they end up dying? And who are the ones who are able to see, who basically live outside of reality as we know it, and know and are aware, hey, this has happened before. We've experienced this before. We're going from one reality to the next. Yes, Qatar, the multiverse theory.
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah.
Deja vu.
Yeah. Well, especially what's interesting is
The
that one
Black
dream
Cat
of
in the Matrix. The Black Cat in the Matrix, Josh.
I've
There
only
you
seen the
go.
movie one time. I've never
There
seen.
you go.
Oh, it's literally, yeah, what
It's
everything Zod's talking about.
oh
Yeah.
God.
You're preaching.
It's
You're
there.
preaching.
It's
Yep.
there. Like they tried to tell us, Josh, and nobody took it serious. They just,
Yep.
oh, what a cool action movie. Yeah, okay.
Who wants to live underground and eat slop and avoid some crazy machines? I don't know.
There's something I thought of though. When Dieter has that one dream about the zombies chasing after him, and in what looks like to be that Las Vegas room, it's interesting that it's just Dieter that time. I'm thinking, what if that's another reality? That's another reality where Dieter is the last man standing? Zombies got to everyone else. Let's say in this reality, Kate just opened the door for the zombies because I feel like blaming Kate.
Well, Kate lives in every single reality, so there's literally no reality. There's only one reality in which Kate dies. The rest of the realities she survives because she's the ultimate foil. So it's unfortunate, but that's just the way the world works, the way the universe works,
Yeah,
the way
maybe
the
that's in this.
multiverse works.
Yep.
In that reality, let's say Kate just opened the door, hightailed it out of there, and then all the zombies went after everyone else, and then they're about to go after Dieter.
Dieter discovered a way to travel between timelines. He knew what he had to do in order to go from one timeline to the next. You can look at it like that if you really break down Dieter's actions, especially later as we get into Army of the Dead.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I love too is just the opening of this movie is that just a little detail. I like how they actually use YouTube in this movie, is that they just paid for the branding rights to show it or blurred it out enough that they could get away with it. Because it always drives me insane when I watch a show and they use these search engines that no one's even heard of before, or these made up YouTube equivalents. I'm like, everyone uses YouTube.
What is called I think one was called Duckle or something like that. It's clearly supposed to be Google, but it's like a duck, and it's so funny. I'm like, where do they come up with this stuff? It's like, just use the real search engines. What I don't understand is why more movies don't use Bing. I mean, Bing.
Oh yeah.
Bing could use the money. Bing will let you use their search engine for free just for the name recognition alone. Right. So I don't understand why they don't use Bing. I think one of them was called Pring, and they had all these different, all these different ones that they were using. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, and that's what I like is they actually use YouTube this time, and what it does is it makes it feel like more in our world. It makes it feel more connected to the real world when you just use the real brands. And I thought it was a great way of really setting up the story, the whole setting of Army of Thieves is just seeing Dieter's. It's such a clever way he does the exposition where he tells the stories of the safe. And then he finds out, he was recording it for his YouTube channel, which has no views on it whatsoever, which is just really sad.
He's got to give us the history lesson.
Yeah,
because Zach perfected the history lesson.
The Age of Heroes.
Oh yeah, exactly. And Zach, I guess anyone in Zach's universe, anyone playing in a universe from Zach has to find a way to live up to that. And I thought this one was cool. I thought it was a cool history. It was obviously nothing's gonna be as cool as the world coming together to defeat Darkseid, but this was still pretty cool. I thought that still seeing the different safes and just seeing, and I have to tell you this, now that I do YouTube, I feel a lot more empathy for Dieter when he has no views on his video.
And I think that was, that was purposeful, going back to what Zod was saying about, him engaging with it. Like from a young age, we see that, we end up eventually in the movie seeing him not relating to other people, young people his age, telling him to be quiet so I can engage with this safe and speak with this safe, right? And that becomes, you know, his way of bonding.
The safes are his friends.
Mhm.
The safes are his lovers. The safes are everything to him.
And YouTube is a way for him to kind of try to see if anyone's like him. And lo and behold, even though he has 0 views, he gets a comment, 1 comment. And
Which
he's
changed
not
his
alone.
life forever.
And he's not alone in that moment, right? It doesn't matter if you got the most views.
Here's the thing about the YouTube thing, though. I don't think that was realistic. He would have got views. I mean, come on. Like, people are so curious about weird stuff on YouTube. He would have got views 100%. There's no way that he would have sat there for all that time and he would not have gotten views. I just that was the one part of the movie that I kind of thought it was a little bit sus, because I'm like, no, he would get views. There's some horrible YouTube channels out there that get views. So there's no way that would, I mean, people would find that stuff fascinating for sure.
Yeah.
Well, especially what I found interesting is that after he won that little contest, like, I would have like shouted to the heavens, subscribe to my YouTube channel. So he would have gotten.
I mean, you could be like some people and go from like 700 subs to over 1,000 overnight. I mean, it's, you know, it only takes one video. You know, it only takes one video. If that video gets the traction, even if that video doesn't match up with the amount of subs, it doesn't matter, because all it takes to get people to subscribe is having something interesting to show them. You pique people's interest, they'll subscribe to your channel, even if they're just curious about what you're going to offer, what you're going to do. So that would have been a perfect thing for him to do. He could have just yelled and subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Click the button that says subscribe.
Which, you know, that's another thing though that I thought was a little sus though, was that the one comment he got, I'm like, whether or not this guy gets views on his channel, it's still pretty risky putting it on the open internet, how to get into your secret club. That's the only.
Well, but the idea, but see, that's the reason why they had to show that his channel was a total loser channel, that he didn't get any views whatsoever, because they had to make it realistic for that person to feel comfortable dropping such an important bit of information on an essentially dead YouTube channel. That's the only way it works. That's the whole reason why his channel didn't have any views. That was the whole reason for that plot point, to set up that secret meeting place. Yes.
Exactly. And
it would have actually been more believable if he would have just gotten a mysterious text message instead of making his YouTube channel look like that. Because, like I said, I think his YouTube channel would have been doing pretty well. I think he would have had it by a certain point. He would have had like 100,000 subscribers, easy. You know, talking about that kind of stuff.
Well, if you got like a DM, maybe like if you get, I don't know if you can get like DM on YouTube, if there's a way to do that, or like a Google.
Well, like, you know how you got to put your email address in there for business purposes. You put your email address in there, and they can click on it, and they got to do the verification thing. But they do that, and then they can get access to your email. He could have easily, they could have did that and sent him an email through his YouTube channel, and they could have communicated with him that way.
Yeah, that would have been, I think that would have been the better way to do it. That's, again, that's probably my only criticism, is do it like that and like show if maybe he has about 5 views per channel. Don't give it the exact same number every video, but maybe keep it under 100 or something like that to make it feel. So, but overall though, I still like the opening because I like that it shows the life that this guy lives. This guy, he goes through his life. He works as a bank teller. He has to deal with these annoying Karens yelling at him for no reason. Like, I mean, hey, having done some stuff in customer service in my past, I can definitely tell you that's very realistic. Dealing with them, yeah.
That was the mundaneness, right? That he had to
Yeah.
find others.
People that are more unhappy in their lives than him.
Right.
Yeah, for no reason. Like, I'll be honest, that old woman who was holding up the line yelling at him, well, my damn, just like, if I was in that line, I don't care you're an old lady, I'm gonna fucking punch you for being rude to the people working and holding up the line and being disrespectful. It's like, you want respect as an elder, then
Send
person.
your hate mail and complaints to batdancethoughts@gmail.com. Talking about punching old ladies. Come on, man.
One deserved it, though. That one deserved it.
Wow, that's insane, dude. You said that publicly. You're worried about other things getting you canceled. That would get you canceled real quick if you start advocating punching old ladies in the face.
I already gave a tutorial on how to get away with murder on my channel, so you can't really get much.
Very true. Very true.
Hey, thoughts from Bad Dan. Oh God, I love these streams. They're so great. Oh,
Dan versus
I can see that as a t-shirt on a t-shirt. Bat Dad's holding a big baseball bat like a Louisville Slugger, and then you see like a couple old ladies surrounding him, and he's like this.
You know, it's funny when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars, a big argument that was used that if that was a little old lady, Will Smith would have killed that person. That was like a legitimate comment people were saying. So I'm like, but the point was, they were, you know, she and the other man were both being Karens, being rude to people, and I can't stand Karens because I have empathy for people who work in retail.
Yeah, retail, been there, so it's a rite of passage for sure.
I guess that's not really retail, but it's still in that customer service realm.
I got my whips in with Target. They whipped me good back in the day when I was in college. So taught me a lot about human behavior and ended up pushing me to psychology. Shout out to Dieter for
one of my first jobs out of high school was as a telemarketer. One of the worst positions you could ever have, guys. I mean, you talk about dealing with rude people, and on top of that, being, you know, doing a job that's like a hated position anyway, like just generally hated. The only thing worse than a telemarketer is a bill collector. So there you go.
Props to you. You're still here though. Look, you made it. You made it
That's
through.
Right. Hey, we survived, right? Isn't that what it's about, Josh? Survival. I mean, what can you do?
True.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. That's how you survive that stuff, is you just deal with it. But it shows like how ordinary, as they say, his life is. And that was like the whole point, is that with Sebastian, it wasn't just about the money, it was about having some actual excitement in his life. And that's how Gwen recruited him, was because she could tell that, I mean, the fact that she found him just by following his routine, that he does the exact same thing every day, that she didn't have to do any tracking or anything. She's just like, I know you show up at this time every day, so I don't need to follow you around that day. I just know you'll be here at this time. And she was right.
Yep. I mean, but that's kind of like Dieter also just kind of like living his life and just like doing what he wants to do. And ultimately, though, the right person finds him, right? And he ends up connecting with somebody who is going to change his fate in this reality.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. Because it wasn't for that, it wasn't for her, he would not have been in Nevada cracking that safe in the zombie quarantine zone.
Very true.
But the opening just does a good job of setting up the tone of this movie, showing the connection to Army of the Dead, just showing that little news recording. I mean, when Sebastian's looking at it, it's in the middle of the Karen yelling at him some petty problem. When we were saying earlier about how the zombie apocalypse is being brushed to the side, you literally have a Karen yelling at him while there's a zombie apocalypse broadcast on the news. The old lady that I want to punch yelling at him while it's on the news. And we're getting canceled anyways, so.
Yeah, you're definitely getting canceled now because you doubled down on it. I mean, at that point, it's just like, nobody can help you now. You're canceled.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be the first time.
No, would not be the first time. Again, I don't know what's worse. My video where I basically taught people how to get away with murder, or talking about punching a Karen. Punching an old lady who happens.
No, definitely punching old ladies is worse, because how to get away with murder has been probably documented on tons of other YouTube videos. So.
Hey, to be fair, I do say I stand with Anakin Skywalker and the Sith are the good guys, so. Because they are the good guys. But I guess overall, do you guys have any more thoughts about the opening of this movie?
I mean, I think it's good that it focuses on Sebastian, and shows us who he is, and then because we had already seen who he's going to be, right? So you see that uncertainness at first of him as a person, but through each trial, right, he evolves even more. So I love that this kind of sets the foundation for what is the, unevolved version that is not yet Ludwig Dieter.
Yeah, exactly. Any more thoughts from you, Zahn?
No, I have to concur with you, gentlemen. I think we covered the opening very thoroughly.
Yep, and this
hashtag punching Karens out to
Oh goodness.
presented by Matt Dad. Only Sin Havoc. Oh my God, that's great. I wonder what Socks would say if he were in the chat right now. I'm sure he would be agreeing with you, Matt Dad, because he kind of doesn't have a filter either.
He'd be singing Brat Dan's praises.
Wow. That was so great.
Oh my God, I wish Socks was in the chat right now.
Oh boy.
Well, he'll be live tomorrow on my channel, so.
Oh God, we're gonna have to give him a refresher tomorrow. La 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 la.
Well, it's Space-tastic discussion, so I'll be singing the Star Wars theme for him.
Awesome.
And have to remember to say justice for Fives tomorrow too, because I always give Fives shout outs in my Star Wars videos. So anyway, now on to some of the characters now. What do you guys think of this guy? Delacroix, the male Interpol agent.
The accent goes a long way to establish the villain of the story, so to speak. Well, one of the villains.
Indeed. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about, how we were talking about earlier about how no one gives a shit about the zombies, just, their day-to-day lives. I mean, the other guys, the Interpol agents, even call him out on this. It's like, why are we worried about this right now? We have actual zombies that are a threat right now that could end our very existence. And again, he has that mindset, out of sight, out of mind. It's not here, so it's not anywhere.
He has he's invested, right, because of what happens to him with his being shot in the butt and all. So he has a grudge to settle, right? And he's a villain who feels like he needs, revenge, so to speak, even though he's part of law enforcement, right? He's supposed to be a good guy.
And the funny thing is, he's not a very convincing villain either. It's just kind of like, it's kind of like, this is one of those guys that probably should have been a painter and stayed a painter, and then instead he wanted to be a tough guy. So
Well, he's just not very competent because little things like
no.
in the second time, how did you not realize that the safe was moved? Like this stuff is documented. You didn't do a basic search of this first, or even before realizing that.
Well, I mean, are you adding him to your punch list right underneath the old ladies? I mean, because
I mean, to be fair, he did get shot in the ass, and what's funny is do you see him sit at all in this movie?
Yeah, and he's at the computer.
Okay, yeah, he does sit. 'Cause I was wondering, because like I wasn't sure if it actually hurt him because you see that he had that wine bottle or that drinking thing that I don't know what you call it, but that little weird shaped bottle that you put alcohol in that you
Flask.
saw that was a Voss. Yeah,
Flask.
you saw that was shot, and so you wonder, did it just shoot him in the butt pockets, and was he completely fine, or did it actually hurt him still? That's what I'm wondering because you see the bullet completely pierce through that, so like you see it stuck in there, and he can sit, as Josh points out. So I feel like if you're shot in the butt, you're not sitting again for the rest of your life, or you're sitting on a donut.
I'm sure it's probably more of a humiliation thing. It's probably his co-workers, fellow officers were like, "Oh, you got shot in the ass," kind of thing. So I'm sure he kind of was bragged on a little bit.
But it shows a common theme here. It shows people's egos getting in the way of their better judgment. Because if he had cooperated with the casino, the bank, he literally could have told them, "Hey, we're setting a trap for these people, so we kind of need you to cooperate a little bit." I mean, here's the thing. Interpol, if any law enforcement is saying you have to do something within reason, you're pretty much stuck doing it.
well,
Like,
he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. So
Very true.
and it's funny though. We say he's a villain, but technically speaking, he didn't do anything illegal. He didn't necessarily
Right.
do anything that was morally wrong per se. I mean, he was catching robbers.
He's an antagonist more. So.
Exactly.
That's better.
Well, yeah, because by definition, the antagonist goes against the protagonist. So, like, if there was a movie about Joker, I don't mean like the Todd Phillips movie, but I will say a traditional Joker, Batman would technically be the antagonist. True. By definition.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my.
Hey, it's a Star Wars reference. You can't get mad at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Space-tastic discussions. Bring it back tomorrow.
Yep, that's coming back tomorrow. I mean, hey, they forgave Will Smith eventually, so.
They'll eventually forgive you 2 or 3 old ladies later.
Yeah, this one is gonna come haunt. This is definitely gonna come back to haunt me at some point.
Punching somebody's grandmother, and all she was trying to do was buying her sausages for dinner. That's so bogus. All she wanted was her dinner.
Well, to be fair, I was talking about punching a Karen, not someone who just wanted dinner.
Yeah, but that's why she was so upset. That's why she, was yelling and complaining. Everybody's got a reason, Batman, for the way that they are, and just because you don't know what that reason is, that's why you have to be careful, because you never know what people are going through.
Yeah,
so realize that because that Karen might be annoying and yelling and complaining, but realize that person is probably going through some horrible stuff too. And that's what's making them. Usually when people act like that, it's because they're projecting other things that they're dealing with in their lives onto that moment, because usually those moments are tipping points for people. So you got to be very careful before you want to punch them.
Yeah, I don't know. And in my head canon, though, that Karen was just being a Karen. She didn't have a good reason. She was just being a whiny little bitch. I'm not giving that Karen an excuse in my head canon. But anyway, to get back to Delacroix, is that I like though that he had empathy for Sebastian, though, is that because the guy's a loser. I mean, this guy right here is also a loser, for being honest here. So I think I felt like his empathy for Sebastian was realistic, and in that scenario, letting Sebastian get away, I think made sense, and I think strategically it was the right call to do because you had two guns to each other. He needs to survive, and he wants to at least catch one of them. So he's better off letting one of them go. I mean, realistically speaking, I mean, again, now this is France, this is Europe, or whatever jurisdiction this is under, but like in America, I'm pretty sure that you can make calls like that, being like, hey, it was my life. I was offered a chance to get one of them without shots, so I took it. I took the chance to get the more dangerous person. He probably didn't even have to lie and say you were never there. He's like, go. So,
And he even, like, kind of what you were saying, I think that subconsciously, like, he tells Sebastian, I didn't even see you. Like, I didn't even realize that was you. He didn't connect. Because he also kind of, like, probably like you were saying, this guy's a loser, and he also recognized that Dieter was probably a loser to him in his eyes, right? So everyone was a loser, kind of in this movie.
Right, Dieter's essentially a nobody. So
right.
it's
And Gwendolyn says that he's a nobody. Let him go. And so he's like, yeah, you're right. He is a nobody. I want revenge on you and your boyfriend, right? So
yeah, which he got. Again, the rest of Interpol was telling him to go after the zombies, and he was the only one who was like, no, let's go after these guys.
Mm-hmm. Have a grudge to settle.
And it's funny. Beatrix, the female Interpol agent, I really like her in this movie. I like how she's like calling him out on all his BS in the movie.
She's like, you called me in for this? A simple phone call when he's putting together.
And plus, she said they should have told the casino what was going on exactly, and he did, and Delacroix didn't, which is why they moved it up. Whereas she was right. If they had cooperated with the casino and with the bank, they might have actually caught them. But they didn't. She was the only one calling him out on that, and she was the only one who actually got Karina to actually tell them where the other guys were. Because if it wasn't for her, Karina would have been like, oh, fine. They went down to China. They're heading to China. They're wholly heading that way.
Right. She was a little bit more effective as an antagonist than the other guy.
Yeah, she actually knew what she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because there's not too much to really say about her. She's just basically Delacroix's smarter partner.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I guess, Oliver, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. She was an interesting character. I'd say more interesting than her male counterpart, but yeah.
Yeah. It's like, this isn't a Zack Snyder directed movie. Zack Snyder writes. Zack Snyder did write this movie. He writes female characters really well.
Yeah.
100%.
And this is another example that proves it. Yes, granted, this is a situation where the male counterpart is stupid, but it didn't feel like the male counterpart was stupid with the purpose of propping up this person. The male counterpart was just stupid for the sake of the story.
Right. He was definitely a doofus, for sure. Like she,
But still, though, if something humiliating.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, if something humiliating happens to you, you're not always going to use your best judgment.
That's what I was going to say. He's blind by his motivation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, getting shot in the ass is pretty humiliating. Hey, at least it was his ass and not his, Could you imagine? Oh my! Could you imagine if they did that in the movie?
Hey, leave that for the Rebel Moon R-rated cut.
And on that note, not the best transition, actually. I just implied something, and then we're going to a guy whose name is similar to Ralph. That was not planned. This literally was the next topic on the list. Is this guy. We'll start with you, ZodWriter. What's your overall thought on this character?
He didn't really stand out to me all that much. Minor character.
Yeah, he was just
Nothing,
the fifth guy.
nothing really like a fifth wheel kind of a character. Like nothing really, not a whole lot there. But then, a standard Zack Snyder style NPC. Nobody of any real importance.
But hey, at least he was good at his job, though. That's at least he
Yeah.
wasn't like
Okay, yeah, we can give him that. That one thing that he's good at, is accentuated in the movie, so we can.
I would say his best scene, honestly, was his intro when they're introducing all the characters, and you see him at the valet, and he's doing his getaway driver, and he's coming back no problem. Doesn't even care that the Karen doesn't give him a tip because he got more money instead.
That was Zack Snyder's Fast and the Furious little Easter egg right there.
Right. Could you imagine a Zack Snyder Fast and the Furious movie? On that note, Josh, I mean, oh my God.
Yeah, that would
he'd have him on Neptune.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, in this movie though, he doesn't really do much. He kind of just goes whichever way the wind blows. He's like, oh, I like Sebastian. He's a good guy. He's bonding with him a little bit, and then But then when Brad Cage just throws him out, he's like, oh yeah, we were gonna ditch the guy eventually, and then the instant he's on the losing side, he's like, is it too late to change sides?
That's what I was gonna say. He has no allegiance whatsoever.
No, just whichever side. I mean, the thing is, too, if he was one of the people who could see the future and had a way to see that the girls were basically going to win, he would have joined them, too. He would have, I guess they ended up losing, but but still, the point, actually, no, the only reason that she was even caught is because they were there. That's the only reason she got out of her vehicle and got caught was because she knew that those two guys were there. So no, if he had not sided with them at all, they might have actually all four of them gotten away.
Very true. All Ralph's fault. Blame Ralph.
Yeah, well, blame Ralph. But another character who's minor, but I feel like at least she had a little bit more personality, and I guess now knowing that she is Sebastian's wife, is Karina I cannot pronounce that last name, but
Dominguez.
Okay, so Dominguez. I am not good at pronouncing names, but one thing I have to ask: in this movie, they say that she downloaded the Pirates of the Caribbean 2, and then Sebastian's like, "Oh, well, you're responsible for that leak." Is that the leak that actually happened in the real world? Is that some mysterious leak that actually happened that people couldn't track down?
To my knowledge, I'm not sure. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't know for sure. I remember quite a few movies leaking in that manner. In fact, I remember X-Men Wolverine Origins.
I saw that
leaked on the internet, and a lot of top critics got busted because they watched that leaked copy, and that leaked copy was lacking visual effects. So you had, Wolverine on strings and wires and stuff like that because they hadn't finished the visual effects yet. But this copy of the movie had leaked, and I remember it was a big thing, and they didn't know who did it. They were trying to track the person down, but that's the closest I can remember. I don't remember there being anything particular with Pirates of the Caribbean 2, but I do remember X-Men Wolverine Origins. I remember that.
Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest came out in 2006, and I remember Wolverine Origins was 2008. So maybe it did leak, but I don't remember hearing about it.
Yeah, what was another one that leaked? Another one that leaked, I think, was Expendables 3, a more contemporary one, the Sylvester Stallone action movie with all those with Jason Statham and some of those other ones. I remember that one leaked too, and I remember it heartbreaking for Sylvester Stallone because he didn't really understand how any of that stuff worked. And he's like, well, now you guys might not get an Expendables 4. I remember that. Like, those are the two that jump out at me: Expendables 3 and X-Men Wolverine Origins.
I mean, not that it's like that important to the story, but like I just find it interesting that they used a real movie. They used a real movie, said it by name. I mean, I guess it's technically called Dead Man's Chest, but I'm pretty sure Disney's not going to look at it. It's like, oh, you said Pirates of the Caribbean 2. It's not our movie. Like, my point is, it's interesting that they used a real movie. Not one, they said a studio, a major studio. I found that kind of interesting that they didn't just, like, if people say Disney got hacked, you would just say Disney. You wouldn't say a major studio. But minor nitpick, I guess. But again, maybe it could be some sort of copyright things where they might get away with saying the movie more than the studio. I don't know, but if that's the case.
I mean, there's a lot of movies where they can mention other movies if they're mentioning it for like, if maybe I think it's something like you can mention it once, or you can, as long as you're not intending any infringement, you can mention it. It'd be like if they were to make a rule that YouTubers, we couldn't mention specific movie names. Could you imagine how difficult it would be to talk about movies if you couldn't mention movie names?
What would I even call this stream, first of all? Like, this stream is like trying to call it like Heist in Europe.
I know what you
prequel.
could call it. I know what you could call it. You could call it beating Karens, serving justice, one punch at a time. That's what you could call it. Beating Karens, serving up justice, one punch at a time. There you go.
So to answer your question, Bat Dan, I just looked. There's a screenwrite article, and no, Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest did not leak online, but Pirates of the Caribbean 5 Dead Man's Chest did. So it's kind of just like
Dead Man Tells No Tales.
Dead Man Tells No Tales. You're right.
That one was off.
Netflix.
As far as I'm concerned, there's only Netflix has what? I'm sorry.
They have had leaks before. Ransom hackers basically had a ransom for Orange is the New Black when that show was out, and they didn't pay the ransom, so the first 10 episodes of season 5 was leaked. So probably Netflix was just kind of like, oh, okay, do something for like Disney to reference that. So that's what I think. What were you going to say?
Oh, interesting. I was going to say, as far as I'm concerned, there's only 3 Pirates of the Caribbean movies. As far as I'm concerned, there is no 4 or 5. There's just it's a trilogy as far as I'm concerned. Just like
kind of like your philosophy about punching old ladies. You don't have time for any additional information. Pow.
Pow.
Pow pow.
Pow pow.
Oh yeah, just advertise I talk about punching old ladies after this show, and then I'll watch the views skyrocket on this video.
Right. Then
you should change the thumbnail with your fist up like this. And make sure you put old ladies in the thumbnail.
Bat Dan v. Old Karen.
That would be awesome. Oh my God. Yeah, that would go viral. There you go, Bat Dan. There's your viral video right there.
Oh boy. But anyway, I guess with Karina's character, what I like about her though, at least she's loyal to who are actually her friends. When Gwen left, she left too. She could have stayed with them and make money, but she had integrity. It was about the quest for her. And she wasn't the only reason she gave any hint towards them for catching Gwen and Sebastian is her brother. It's obviously her actual family's going to come first, and I can respect that. But other than that, though, she was loyal to a T, and that's what I admire her for that.
Agreed. She's got honor, something very important in Zack Snyder movies. So
yeah, to give her that trait is actually an honor for Zack Snyder to give her that quality, because that quality is so important in all Zack Snyder films.
And they're supposed to not be honor among thieves, but lo and behold.
But here we were taught something different. Zach is teaching us a different lesson.
That's the version that Zach loves to do.
And I love this character's attitude. Is that she just has, I like the attitude that she gives, her attitude towards Sebastian, and again, how they're one nerd to another, and how I like that she says being a nerd is a compliment. And especially in this day and age, it is.
Yep. We rule.
Yeah, just saying. All my friends are nerds.
Cool kids. Cool kids.
But she was actually a useful character. I liked her. I mean, again, she's obviously not as minor as the big three, but at least she definitely felt a lot more useful than Ralph. Or Rolf, I guess she's trying how you pronounce it with the O, but or is it Ralph with the with an O? I thought Ralph with an A. I'm not gonna overthink this too much, but she was a useful character in my opinion, I guess. ZodWriter, what about you?
Oh yeah, I thought she was very, very well done. I enjoyed her character a lot.
She definitely helps Sebastian's journey too. You know, courting Lynn and filling
the Joseph Campbellian journey, hero's journey. Yes, because what is a hero's journey without a good woman of honor by your side?
There's always an Obi-Wan.
Oh, fuck Obi-Wan. He gave up on Anakin.
Oh, there we go. I should have never said that.
Cancel that, Dan.
Cancel that.
Yeah, I'm already getting canceled after this video. What does it really matter at this point? I might as well just go all out at this point.
We might as well just start talking about politics now. At this point, it's like you've already crossed the threshold. So, how do you feel about those Biden videos, Batman?
Anything else to say about Karina before we move on?
The look on your face is priceless.
She's gorgeous, and yeah, she's definitely valued in making Sebastian who he becomes.
100%, yes.
But you know what this guy Brad Cage Alexis reminds me of in a way? He reminds me of the Restore the Snyderverse community right now. Because he puts his own ego above the mission. Because he throws out Sebastian when they still need him to crack the third safe because he's jealous that he's stealing his girl, even though I don't think they were actually a couple. I don't think Gwen considered them a couple at that point. But not only that, he says, okay, fine, no, we have enough money. We don't care about the third safe. Well, then why are you going after them now? Let them do the third safe if you don't actually care. I mean, if Alexis and I'm just gonna call him Alexis just to piss him off. If Alexis and Ralph just stayed in their own lane, just ran away with the money they had, they wouldn't have been caught. But his own ego got him.
He calls himself Brad Cage. I mean, what do you think? Of course, he's the very archetype of ego. That's what he's supposed to represent in the film. He's supposed to represent ego as a brought to life character, like a real life visualization of ego. That's what Brad Cage is. Brad Cage is the way that some people like to see themselves, and Alexis is the reality.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. That's actually, I like that. That's actually a really great point. Is that, again, I guess his two role models were Brad Pitt and Nicolas Cage, hence Brad Cage. But I mean,
I don't know, and I sit here and I also think he probably liked Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat as well.
Right.
But that's just kind of with the glasses and stuff. I'm like, you know what? I saw a little bit of Johnny Cage in him too, but yeah.
But I see, to me, this is the main, like, he is like the real antagonist of this movie. Because unlike that doofus Interpol agent, he actually was a bit of a threat. I mean, the fact that the only reason that he lost was because he didn't realize that Gwen pulled his trigger or made it so that gun couldn't fire. I don't know the exact terminology because I've never shot a gun in my life, and I don't plan to. Might as well say something non-controversial
Oh, you
to.
gotta go to the gun range at least once in your life, Bat Dan. That's all I'm gonna say. It's a very liberating experience.
Okay, I'll take you up. I'll look up a gun range near me just to try it out.
Now you gotta get a Void card first, but
Oh, that's too much work then. Okay, never mind. That's way too much work.
Back to Karen's punching them. That's easy.
yeah, screw firearms. I could just use my fists.
What
Well,
Batman?
I mean, hopefully it wouldn't be like Dieter, where Dieter tries to punch them and just breaks his hand.
Oh, you do the scream perfect, Josh. I mean, you got that down for your cosplay. You should be Dieter at the next convention you go to, bro.
That's the one thing that I love that makes this movie for me.
Oh yeah,
that scene, Batman. It's one of my favorites. That with Brad being like, "You're such a pussy," like so good. But
yeah, but Gwen likes them. Apparently, Gwen likes pussies.
Hey,
well, I mean, no.
But I did. I mean, with Brad Cage, it's always hard when I say I like a character who's a villain, because I like him the way we're supposed to, and I hate him the way we're supposed to. Is that I hate the character in the sense that he's a douchebag and we're supposed to not like him, and he gets his comeuppance at the end. But again, it shows that he puts his ego above anything else. All this guy is at the end of the day is muscle. That is his only use on this team is muscle. He is not useful for anything else because, again, even if he wanted to get rid of Dieter, he could have easily done. They could have done it after the third one. But no, he was in a hurry now, and he could have just ran away with the money he had. I'm like, hey, you got a lot of money from the first two robberies, and you have it all. I mean, I don't think Gwen and Karina took any of it. I mean, maybe there was some of it in that bag, but I'm pretty sure you have most of that money. So why just let them go? Just do your own thing. I mean, don't chase. I'm gonna say this, men. Don't chase after a woman who doesn't want you. That's a good lesson. Do not do that. You gotta have some self-respect. And he does not.
The one thing I agree with you about, Dan, that is the most evil thing, in my opinion, that Brad or Alexis does in the movie is when Gwendolyn's trying to get away at the back of the van, and he puts his arms around her, literally trapping her, but then also whispers, "I love you," like right in that moment as she's trying to get away.
That's Alexis beta behavior right there. That's what it is.
Yep. And he's just using that manipulation to perpetuate his own needs, knowing that in the end he's just going to throw her away. You know, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about her really. He just is competing with Sebastian more or less and getting the big.
It all goes back to what we've been saying, that ego being a personified version of ego, like literally represented in everything Alexis does. Yes,
100%.
Exactly. And you know, Josh, what you said there, yeah, I actually got a little triggered. Not at you, but like at Alexis when you said that to me, because that's, if there's anything that like legitimately makes me angry, it's a man trapping a woman when she's trying to leave. Is just touching a woman without consent, not that, but trapping a woman.
Yeah, well, punching an old lady in the face without consent is kind of bad too.
Yeah, okay, but one's being a Karen, the other's trying to leave a dangerous situation, a situation that she'd use is not great. And
yeah, but if you punch her, it's a dangerous situation.
Oh my god, this really is not. Okay, can I just say that I would punch the guy trying to stop a woman from leaving if I see a guy who's trying to stop a woman from leaving, trying to hold a woman against her will?
Yes,
can I say
because you are being a hero and not an old lady puncher. So we gotta give you credit for that.
Hashtag Batman hero.
Batman hero. Yes, there you go.
And probably what I would do first is I would first aim for the balls, then punch him. Gotta aim for the weak spots. I don't mind fighting dirty. I'll put it like that. announce my fighting techniques on YouTube. Maybe I shouldn't do that. But the point is, I would not be like Dieter, who just grovels down and goes, hurts. I actually could take him. So, point is, yeah, men do not. If a woman wants to leave, you do not stop her from leaving. That is never okay to do.
If a woman is trying to leave, the best thing you, as a man, can do is move out of the way, open the door for them. That is the greatest thing you could possibly do. If she says she wants to go, okay, no problem. Give me a moment. Open the door. See you later.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best thing you could do.
Especially, it's just like when he's like saying, "Oh no, like I love you." No, you don't. Because if you truly loved her, you wouldn't be trying to go after her. You wouldn't
If
hold a
you love her,
freaking gun to
if you
her.
love her, you let her go.
Right.
If you love her, you let her go. Because here's the thing: if you love her, you let her go, and you support her no matter what. And if she's really into you and sees your value, she will come back to you.
Yeah,
100%.
exactly. That's exactly right. And this guy was as far as I'm concerned, this guy was a monster just for that one scene alone. And honestly, now that I think about it, I don't think he got enough comeuppance, in my opinion. I want to see that I want to like find out that this guy got shanked in prison.
Well, hey, you might. I don't know if you noticed this, Bet Dan. I don't know if you, Zod, you probably do. You might see him getting his comeuppance in another Snyderverse film as Din in Rebel Moon Part 2. He's the hunter at the beginning of Korra's courtship scene.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Stuart Martin. Yeah. It's the same actor, different character, obviously. But we know Army of the Dead and Rebel Moon are somehow
connected, same universe.
And it's really interesting too, because I mean, this isn't a Zack. I mean, since Zack Snyder didn't direct it, aside from Dieter, it's not Zack Snyder casting, and here he is in a Zack Snyder directed movie.
So, in one way or another.
This is how you know Army of Thieves has Zack's 100% stamp of approval. I mean, Zack was there every step of the way. It's his universe. This is what Zack wanted to do for DC. Yep. You understand? Zack didn't want to direct every movie. Zack just wanted to set the table for other creators to come in and be able to tell stories in his framework. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we would have got. This is how it is. So you see, when you think about all this and you see what he's doing here with this whole new Snyderverse that he's created on Netflix, it just makes the realities of his DC tenure all the more frustrating.
Yeah. And I just want to point out, even though ZSJL Zack said, was not canon except for Man of Steel and Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition, only those two movies, he still chose to use Jared Leto's Joker. Even though that was not his casting, and he had no obligation to honor any other continuity anymore, he still called Jared Leto.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't need to do that.
Which once again underscores the point that that's what Zack was doing the whole time. He was setting it up for other filmmakers to come in and work within his framework.
He even gave David Ayer a shout out. Honor to have our worlds collide. And, hopefully at the very least we can get the sequels on Netflix, but ask for it all. Hashtag sell ZSJL to Netflix. Hashtag sell Snyderverse to Netflix. Get the conclusion and maybe some spinoffs too. So, but overall though, this guy, total scumbag. Do not put your hands on a woman. Do not ever put your hands on a woman. And do not ever trap a woman. Never okay. Scumbag all around. And I'm glad he at least got arrested.
Agreed.
And it showed that he's a hothead because Glenn had to remove his trigger for a reason. Because if you think about it, his behavior was the reason why the Interpol agent was after them in the first place.
Very true.
Because he's the one who shot him in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
And what the doofus Interpol agent didn't realize is that no one but him was okay with that. Is that the other guys were like, no, this was uncalled for, dude.
Right.
Exactly. Sin Havoc. Sorry, Sin Havoc. Exactly.
You had to say Sid
So,
Havoc twice to avoid.
yep, yep. That's who he is. It's Sin Havoc. No one else. So, anyway, let's move on now. Gwendolyn Starr. We'll start with you, Josh. What do you think of this character?
Well, not only is she gorgeous, she's a badass freaking fighter. Oh my god, I saw so many similarities to Korra's fighting style, actually.
Oh
And
yes.
she comes in, of course, as someone who doesn't seem like a physical presence, right? Very kind of soft. I kind of knew her from Game of Thrones, this actress. I don't know if y'all
She's in
watched
Game
that.
of Thrones.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, who did she play? Who
Uh,
in Game of Thrones?
Masundi. She was Grey Worm's love.
Yes.
So I don't know if you remember that. She was, a side character. She ends up working for Daenerys in her little
Oh,
council. But yeah,
I did not realize this.
that's her most like famous thing. But yeah, she is a badass in that show. And also
100%.
that translates, right, Zod, to this. Like
100%. Yes.
when she takes
I
down
couldn't
those
agree
guards,
more.
I was like, oh my god, I'm watching Korra.
Yeah, she had the training, so she knew how to do it. She was in Game of Thrones. She's, it's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
They're all trained to be badasses for Game of Thrones, and you bring somebody in later on. Yeah, it's incredible. Just yeah.
And we don't get that to see what she's capable of, and she shocks Sebastian, right? He's like, what is that? What was that? Because she's leading him slowly. She's also
You sound just like him.
I love accent informed the male Interpol agent, right? And the evilness, but then also the sweetness of Sebastian's accent, also goes a long way for me to just like fall in love with it. I love accents. I think Zach knows that most people like accents, right? That's the reason why Kai was so charming in Rebel Moon, right? Because we fell for that. Oh,
Oh yeah.
and so I think with Dieter,
Yeah.
or Sebastian, same thing. And of course, Gwendolyn has an accent too. So it's just like it goes a long way, I think, to make you think, oh, they're just polite and proper and European. But then she's also, she's capable of so much more. So don't let your guard down just because she's a female, just because she seems soft. No, she can punch you in the face, Bat Dan. So watch out.
Yeah. Oh no, she's not someone I would get on her bad side, but and that's what I mean.
But
I'm
what if
trying to.
she was a Karen, Batman? That's the problem. What if you were in the line at the grocery store and you were trying to buy your bag of potatoes and she was holding you up and she was yelling and complaining and just being straight up belligerent? I mean, doesn't that qualify for the Batman punch?
I feel like someone who has to be disciplined to learn that technique, and someone who's really that disciplined would not be a Karen over
Yeah, but
something like that.
but see, she's an actress. This is her on her off time grocery shopping. So she's
But
not,
but you have to apply that principles even when you're not doing the martial arts. So I'm just, but
Oh, okay.
But what I like about this character though is that I'm trying to put it like this. Like I'm look, I'm gonna put it like this. Women and men can be equally badass, can be equally dangerous, can be equally tough. But I think women can tend to get away with portraying themselves as helpless a lot. I think women can do that a lot more than men. That's just because there are stereotypes that are ingrained in people's heads, right or wrong. That's just being real. And I feel like she really uses that to her advantage. Like when she has all these shopping bags, like, can you hold this for me? And then swipes the key off and no problem. Again, the guy thought, oh, this is just some woman shopping. She's no threat at all. And then she just goes to badass, beats up those two guards. And I like that she still has some integrity, though. It's like, she knows that those guards are just doing their job. She still wipes the blood off them. She didn't need to do that. And when she stole all the stuff to impress, which, first of all, that just was cool seeing, was very badass, seeing how she swiped all that stuff off those guys at the coffee shop. She was still going to return them, except the gun for a legitimate reason. So she has, even though she's a robber, she has moral. She has, this is never gonna. This one's never going away, is it?
Like now, I'm starting to realize, Josh, that they made that anime One Punch Man. They made it after Bat Dad. They made it after him. I mean, that's where this came from. If you haven't seen One Punch Man, you need to watch it because One Punch Man is just.
I've seen some of it.
Just like Bat Dad. Just like him. Like seriously, One Punch Dad. There you go.
Anyway, ZodWriter, what's your thoughts on Gwendolyn's character?
I love Gwendolyn. I fell in love with her the first moment we seen her on screen. I think this is another Zack Snyder masterpiece of a character. I just loved every moment that she was on the screen. Her interactions with Sebastian are gold, and they make this movie all the more special. I love it. I'm a fan. I'm a fan, and I don't have anything bad to say about the character, to be honest with you.
This makes me wonder, though, ZodWriter, if she had made it with Sebastian into Nevada, could you imagine if she accompanied them all on the heist? Because if she was with them, Dieter would bring her along. You know that.
Yeah. Their connection. It might have. My thing is, though, that might have changed Dieter. Right. You see, Dieter might not have become Dieter.
Yes.
Had she been able to accompany him, he would still be Sebastian. Yeah. And he has to shed Sebastian to become Dieter. Remember, we were talking about like the onion, peeling back the layers. That's what you're doing. You're peeling back Sebastian to eventually get to Dieter. Well, these things, these parts of the hero's journey, the events have to occur for him to emerge the safecracker that he becomes. Mm-hmm. I don't think you get the same character if Gwen accompanies him, if she survives and accompanies him. No.
Well, yeah, because think about it like this. I mean, one thing that's interesting with Gwen is that even though she's this badass fighter, she witnesses Dieter punch Brad and shrivel up like a little girl, and she still falls in love with him and kisses him afterwards. I'm just saying, he's pretty lucky to get a girl like that after doing that in front of her. But the fact is, though, at the same time, though, that shows.
But what you have to understand is women. But see, this is a lesson that you can get from this: is that women are attracted to vulnerabilities in men. When they get to see a man at his vulnerable point, that's a moment for her where she's seeing a side of him that that ordinarily you wouldn't see. So it's a vulnerability that adds to the relationship, adds to the whole dynamic of the relationship.
Sorry, I got distracted with Sin Havoc's comment.
I gotta tell you right now, Bette, this is shaping up to be your best stream ever. This is really great. Just having being here with you and Josh. This is a fantastic stream. Honestly,
One Punch Man.
You, me, Josh, and Sin Havoc. This is fantastic.
Yeah, but. What you were saying, though, ZodWriter, but the fact I was making, though, with her protecting him, is that then Sebastian would have relied on her to protect him still, whereas without her, he's in the real world without that protection.
He had to grow. He needed to lose her to grow into Dieter. And that's what it is. She would have continued to protect him. She would have continued to help him.
Exactly. And hold on a second. Keep talking. I gotta use the bathroom, but I'll be playing this on YouTube, so I'm updated.
Nice.
Well, Well, what do you think, Josh?
No, and exactly what you're saying, because what I was going to say before you said that, Zod, is think of how his scenes are, I guess this is kind of jumping ahead, but Dieter is very intimate with the safes, right?
Right. Yeah.
And has to be fully tuned in with them. And so even though she's with him through the first three, right, more or less, she's also a distraction. So he
He
hasn't.
needs that deeper relationship. He needs that deeper relationship. There was no room in his life for Gwen and the safe of all safes.
And how are you going to deal with an environment that's completely different? They're
It's
just having to.
one, yeah, it's one love. It's
Mhm.
one love. You have one or the other, either the safe or Gwen. When you get to that point, like you said, he was with her for the first three, but now your environment is not your friend,
Mhm.
and you have to devote your heart to the task at hand.
I don't know if she's a badass, right? We saw her take down all these guards. The undead and the zombies in Army of the Dead are a different story.
Yeah,
So,
we saw a lot of badasses get wiped out in
mhm,
Army of the Dead. Badasses that were on her level, or maybe even
yeah.
maybe even more than her,
Yeah.
and they got overtaken. So this is not, yeah.
Maybe she would have had the
agree.
filter though to let Kate come along. Maybe she would have had a night. I feel like she would
She
have been
would
the
have
one.
treated Kate like you treat Karens at the grocery store. Let's just be honest right now.
I feel like
One
Captain America who said language in Age of Ultron. He says language one time and it's like
one punch, Dan. That should be your new YouTube channel name. One Punch Dan.
One Punch Dan.
With your fist as the icon. That's awesome. Oh my god, One Punch Dan.
Hashtag.
anyway, now on to the main event. Very interesting though that they didn't call him
You
Ludwig.
wrote his whole name out. You are awesome. Now pronounce
Yeah.
it.
Oh no, I just copied and pasted all this off Wikipedia. I literally just copy and pasted it.
Wolfnert.
Well,
Sebastian
Yeah,
Schlencht-Wöhnert.
well, at least they say in the actual movie they can't pronounce it except Gwen at the very end.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
But
his journey.
yes,
That's journey to the grocery store. I'm gonna write that story, Sin Havoc. You've inspired me. This is gonna be hell. Everybody's doing
oh
a
my
comic now. I'm gonna do One Punch Dan. It's gonna be
oh
all
my
about
god.
his journey to the grocery store.
You know what I just realized? You're probably gonna do an AI me of talk about me punching old ladies.
Oh my god.
How did you guess that's gonna be the opening AI for the next stream we do? How'd you know? How'd you know? You
Because I
figured it.
know you, ZodWriter, because I know you very well.
You figured it out.
Yep.
One Punch Dan is going to become a reality, people. Pow pow.
But anyway, with Ludwig Dieter, I found it very interesting that he wasn't called Ludwig Dieter at the very beginning of the movie. That they actually gave him this hard to pronounce name that they all say that no one pronounced correctly.
Well, that's his real name, Sebastian. That's his real name. That's his born name. That's him. I mean,
well, it's funny too because it's just something that it's a backstory I didn't know I needed. Because if they just called him Ludwig Dieter in this movie, I wouldn't have thought anything of it. I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, Ludwig Dieter is Ludwig Dieter.
But they did that to differentiate. It's almost like Sebastian is the Clark Kent, and Dieter's the Superman. Yep. So you have that dynamic. You have that duality of all superheroes. Again, this is another grand Joseph Campbellian, Zack Snyder deconstruction. Facts.
and I love this guy's character development just in this movie. He starts off as this nobody, this pussy. I mean, he's still a bit of a pussy in some ways, but still, he's just living his Monday life, dealing with Karens, not punching them like any normal person would at a certain point, and just living his life free of all that stuff. And then he becomes this somewhat of a badass.
It's not normal. One punch, Dan. It's not normal. It's not normal. Not normal. What you're saying. It's not normal, bro.
Anyway, Josh, so what are your thoughts on Sebastian's character? Go on. What are your thoughts on this guy?
I agree what my former co-host Zod was saying.
Okay, so I guess this show's over right now.
We were Phantom Zone. No.
Honestly, this is like the most fun I've had on a live stream in a long time. This is really great stuff. This is like so. This discussion is just so off the charts brilliant. Oh God.
But no, I agree with what Zod was saying, because it is setting you up for, like we talked about, that evolution, right? That hero's journey. And we talked about how there's antagonist and the male Interpol agent, right? And then Brad Cage. But really, if you think about it, the antagonist, like Zod was talking about, the safes are characters. The antagonists and the trials that Sebastian goes through are the safes. Those are the antagonists for Sebastian, right? And you see the development and the battle, as it were, of wits. Because we actually, how many heist movies do you really see the intricacy? You might see it every once in a while, but how intricate were those scenes with the safes, right? That was like a language, like you were talking about, Zod. That was like a whole sequence of communication.
It was literally a romance.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It was a romance, and
I want to be fair. The focus is more the fact that she was a Karen. I didn't care that she was an old lady. I didn't say that I specifically want to target old ladies.
That Dan said, "Oh, Karens could get."
Yeah, exactly. I don't care. I'm an equal opportunist Karen puncher. I'll put it like that.
Bad Dan doesn't discriminate.
Exactly. That's all it is. I'm not an ageist here. I'm not.
Well, not discriminating doesn't necessarily make it right. I mean, it's still pretty crazy.
Okay. Anyway, let's go back on to our topic with Dieter now. But I like that they gave. I like that he foreshadows his own character in that journal thingy. Is that he wants to be like, he pictures himself as more of a badass of Ludwig Dieter. And what I really like is that, in a way, Gwen saw I'll pull that comment up later. I want to finish this point first. Is that Gwen saw the potential in Sebastian become Dieter, and she saw that potential. So that when she gave him that alias of Dieter, in a way, it's like her saying that, I believe in you. I believe that you can become more than what you are right now. Okay, fine. I'll pull it up. Okay. Grandma puncher.
Oh, I feel so bad right now. This is terrible. Oh my God.
That was great.
We wanted posters.
But you are right, Bad Dan. I was listening, yes, as I was cracking up. But the comic book, right? It's just, that's what Matthias and Zach were giving. They were. That's what really made me remember. I was like, oh, this is a hero's journey, right? This comic books, DC in particular is our modern mythology, right? And this story has a lot of mythology tied into it. So all these little signs and hints are like, wow, we're relating to this character who's like a Clark Kent, or a Luke Skywalker before, the bratty Luke Skywalker before the transformation, right? Or like a Korra on the farm. But this is Sebastian knowing that there's potential, there's something more for him, and his own name that he came up with is what he knows he can be, but he has to have people help him along the way. And these obstacles, like the saves, are stepping stones to him evolving one by one.
Again, him needing to lose Gwen to see his full potential, to blossom into Ludwig Dieter. Like,
you know who you kind of remind me of in a way? Lois Lane and Zack Snyder's Justice League. Remember, she didn't get Superman back, Clark Kent back, until she was embracing herself as an independent woman, free of, like, I don't want to say free of, but she can be her own independent woman without Clark Kent, without the man in her life. She doesn't get him back until after that. So I think that's what
she goes through that whole grieving process, and then comes to the realization that her life has to carry on beyond her and Clark. It makes perfect sense. There's a lot of parallels. There's a lot of parallels there. Yeah,
I agree.
And I just want to give this guy a shout out too. Is that this was his first? Oh my God, the name of this guy is Matthias. I'm just gonna say Matthias. The fact that he starred in this movie, I think this was his directorial debut too. So to star in a movie and direct it when this is your first time directing it, he did a really good job. And
brilliant.
And so he's directed several things. Just now looking.
Okay.
But I don't know if anything this big. He's actually a producer.
This is probably his biggest project.
He did something, like a Amazon Prime Video movie.
Yep.
The Manny in 2015, Joy of the Father. But these look like comedy mostly, nothing like.
Oh, and the humor in this movie was great too. I mean, there were a lot of really funny little moments in there that were very natural and not forced or thrown on us like,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
like that.
It's real life humor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's what I say. Life has serious moments. Life has funny moments. There are moments that are going to feel like a stereotypical, say, Zack Snyder movie where it's dark and depressing. And there's moments that are going to feel more kind of upbeat, like a Marvel movie. You can have both of those events in your life. You can have them on the same day, even. And it felt like the humor that you saw, though, was realistic humor, was how people realistically are. But no one turned it into a cartoon. No one turned into a caricature. It's not like, I'm sorry, Sox, if you're watching this on replay, but it's not like the MCU in the modern era where they just crack a joke for no reason, or Civil War where it's a serious movie and they're joking around.
It's not like they just break out into song for no reason either. La 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 la.
Very true.
But the point is, the humor, the tone worked in this movie too. And like, the thing is, Dieter was actually my favorite character in Army of the Dead, so I'm glad he's the one who got the spin-off. But I feel like he was a comedic character, so it makes sense in his movie to have the more comedic tone, that it had a bit more of a comedic tone. But the movie was serious when it needed to be. Like, that's the big thing, is that the serious moments, like when he had to leave Gwen, that was a serious moment. They didn't interrupt it with a joke at a certain point.
Yeah, it was that was him kind of fully embracing, as she led him through this journey with the safes, right? And accompanied him. He became more confident with each successful, romance of the safe, right? Romancing the safe instead of romancing the stone. He was like, whoa! He was doing what he did in Army of the Dead, and you see him build that confidence. So by the time he has to, like Zod was talking about, let his love go on without him, he sees that she believed in him. She had already prepared that passport and that plane ticket and wanting to go along with him, right? But she kind of gave him and granted him his namesake that he knew he was capable of, but never really fully embraced.
And we have to add that element that Marcus is talking about in the chat. Lois grieved for so long, not only for her love of Clark, but because of their unborn child. So that in and of itself also was another powerful piece and also contributed, exponentially to the grief that Lois was going through, that she had to move past so that she could become the independent Lois again. She had a lot of adversity there in the sense of this, but it mirrors this in the sense that you have to have a character like that in the hero's journey, has to have that great loss to become
Yep.
that hero, or if not a hero, to become whatever they're meant to become. And if Gwen had been there for Dieter this whole time, by the point I was making to Josh when you stepped off to go to the washroom, the idea that the safe is the one love, like Josh just said, romancing the safe, that's the one love. So you cannot serve two masters there. You can't have two loves. If Gwen is there, she's a distraction. And this is a moment of that takes absolute precision, absolute finesse, absolute love and devotion. And make no mistake, that's a love story. That's a romance between Dieter and that safe ultimately. So you can't have, it's got to be one or the other. And I think as a character, I think to literally see the transformation, to see Sebastian become Dieter is just brilliant. And you get all of that. Yeah, exactly, Marcus. And that's exactly the whole point. We have things that stay with us that are those traumas that we never recover from. But all we can do is take that trauma and apply it to further us, to help us become who we become. That's what we're shaped by. That's what that's what the human condition
Yep.
essentially is, in a nutshell. So yeah, I mean, he owes a lot to her, but at the same time, now he's his own man. Now he's Dieter. Now he's the lover of safes. He's the romancer of safes. He is like, he's like the Shakespeare of safes at this point, Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And Gwen got him ready for the first three, and now he's ready for the fourth one by himself. The hardest of them all, because he has to go through the zombies. And he has to deal with Kate being on the team, which he did not have to deal with. I would say between the two, I think Kate was the bigger challenge than the zombies. At least the zombies were willing to leave them alone until Kate. Well, actually, it wasn't Kate. It wasn't just Kate. It was that other guy, too, who. But Kate also messed their getaway, so I still blame Kate. So. But.
Yeah. Kate is, Kate is on the level of the Karens that you want to punch.
I think Bad Dan just wants to punch Kate. That's all.
Yeah, no, Kate's the main one I want. Yeah, if I were there, I would have. And anyway, what I really like about this movie is the ending too. And what's funny? The first time I saw this movie, I thought, did they just reuse scenes from Army of the Dead? No, they didn't. They didn't. I mean, they did at the end, but no, that's actually new footage you see they filmed for this movie with Scott and what I can't. Her name's blanking on me for the moment, but what's her name again?
I forget what her name is, but the footage was it was from Army of the Dead, but it was unused footage that they.
Okay.
Yeah. So they didn't film new scenes. They just held
Maria Cruz.
Yes, exactly.
But that's actually clever though that they used new scenes for this movie, or like unused scenes. They found a way to incorporate deleted scenes, and the actors still have to get paid. I think even though they didn't come in the film, I think you still have to pay the actors to use their likeness in the movie. Yep, that's actually a good point. that big guy. I'd say he's probably the only reason I wouldn't punch Kate is if Scott was around, I probably wouldn't, because I don't want to get on Scott's bad side. But I like though that they used it to set up the movie, and it's like now seeing Dieter's entire backstory, because there was definitely some stuff I feel like was like there's definitely some stuff in there that was directly referencing Army of Thieves with like the backstory of the safe. You can, I thought it was really clever how they set that up perfectly in the Army of the Dead, showing like, okay, now we know Dieter's backstory.
Yeah. 100%. Her name was Maria, Scott and Maria.
Yeah, Maria Cruz.
Yes. And that scene, like Marcus was saying, that you see a different, 100%. Like he's like, can I crack it? Like, what do you think? He kind of like sarcastically gives them a reply, and he's got a little bit of an ego himself, because he's like, nothing can stop me. He's not a Brad Cage, but he's also just, he knows that he has gifts and he has to practice those gifts. So I think that's the way that the scene plays out. You kind of see it in a different light. We've seen the scene before, right? Even though not in its entirety, but you're like, oh, this is why he comes in so kind of smug and like, oh, you guys, you come with me with this? Of course, I need this challenge. And so this is kind of like the next step in Dieter's story, right? This is like natural progression. Go ahead.
Dieter was always a little smug though, because in the competition at the beginning, in the last round, he purposely waited. He purposely just was being cocky, didn't do anything until the very last second. I mean, he was
it was a flex. It was a flex. He knew he was gonna do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Marcus, 100% Marcus.
But here's something I'm kind of wondering though. He might have potentially made more money with the other safes, because there might have been more. Not that there was necessarily more money in there, but there was less ways he had to split it.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, they didn't have to give most of the money to one person. I mean, at least as far as he knew.
But remember, he travels. But remember, he can travel through timelines. So maybe it's not really about money for him.
Mm-hmm.
Money is the mask, but money isn't the true value.
Well, even without the quantum leap stuff, that is more Easter eggs. Just going off the face of the value, they say it's about the quest for them, about the quest of cracking the safes.
Yep.
He cracked the other 3. This is his last challenge.
And remember, the safes are, of course, a romance for him. So it's not. It's charming. It's winning the love of that. It's winning that great love. That last safe is that great love.
And
yep.
And here's the thing: you said, Zod, you can't serve 2 masters, but if he cracks that last safe, he's done. He no longer is this. They're no longer his master. So at that point, he could be with Glenn. It's like with Lois, what I said with Lois earlier, is that Lois didn't get Superman back until she no longer needed him. That's the same thing with Dieter. He does not get Gwen back until he doesn't need her. So that's, but I love the ending. I love the way it sets up Army of the Dead, because you see more of Dieter's backstory. And I guess before we wrap up, is there anything we missed in the previous topics, or another topic you want to?
It's the movie we needed, but didn't even know that we needed. That's what makes it so brilliant. We didn't know we needed this, but this movie enhances Army of the Dead so much. Like we said earlier, it elevates it to a whole nother level. It makes Army of the Dead into a masterpiece just by virtue of how well it world builds and lays the groundwork.
Yeah. And I don't know if you remember, ZodWriter, but when you first had, like, this was when you were doing like open panels when this movie came out, and I don't know if you remember, I was still going on people's panels even though I didn't have my own YouTube channel. I said before, I was like, because I had to go, but I want to say one thing before ducking and running. I said, Army of Thieves was a better movie than Army of the Dead, and I just cut out and ran after that.
But it's true. It is a better movie, not just because of what it's in Havoc. It sets up the universe. Not only is it a better movie because it sets up the universe, but it's a better movie because of the way that it elevates Army of the Dead to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
See, you have to look at Army of the Dead from a different lens because this movie exists. You can't discount this movie. Now, if you just look at Army of the Dead as Army of the Dead without this movie, you're missing a big piece of the puzzle. It's like the differences between the theatrical version of BVS and the ultimate version of BVS. You watch the ultimate version of BVS, you never go back to the theatrical version of BVS no matter what, because you know you're missing a good chunk of the story. And that's what it is here. You're getting so much more, and it adds exponential value to Dieter, adds exponential value. Exactly. It just adds value beyond just simply saying, okay, yeah, this is a great movie. This is a zombie genre movie. We got another movie in a completely different genre, totally whimsical, totally awesome, funny, tragic, awesome, deeply layered. I was blown away. And this movie just made me appreciate Army of the Dead even more. It's incredible.
Yeah. I guess, Josh, what about you?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, Zod. And one thing that I caught that we might have missed, or I missed the first time I watched the movie, is this rewatching it, thanks to you, Bat Dan, it really submitted to me why Dieter needs Bandero in Army of the Dead. Think about it. He's not really got a lot of connections, right? And in the beginning, after that first crack safe, he's like talking to Ralph, and he's like, "Oh, are we doing the bonding?" Like he doesn't even know like what male bonding is. And if you think about it, he never really bonds really with any character male wise.
No.
He bonds with the female characters, right? Because they maybe feel sympathetic. But when he gets to Army of the Dead, he finally meets his male bond and Bandero. And that bromance is one of the best things, I think, in Army of the Dead. So I noticed
Army of the Dead. Yes.
That's actually a good point. It's what you said, ZodWriter. It's the whole thing. Army of Thieves makes Army of the Dead a better movie. And I think seeing Dieter's backstory really elevates that. And I agree.
And he has a hell of a backstory too. We can't take anything away from that backstory. That backstory was great.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess just go on. Like, yeah, it was a great backstory. It added to his character.
100%.
And I guess, Josh, we'll start with you. Any final thoughts? And what would you rate this movie as?
Honestly, like I haven't watched this. This maybe have been my third or fourth time rewatching this. I forget. But this actually increased. This rewatch increased because I picked up new things thanks to you, Bat Dan. So I would say I think before I was like at a 7 for this movie out of 10, but now I would give it 8.5. I would say. Like I ended up liking it and enjoying it a lot more than I did from rewatching it the first few times.
Great, yeah, it really is. It's even though this isn't a Zack Snyder directed movie, it's one of those. It's still in that Zack Snyder family, and it gets better with every rewatch. Just like any Zack Snyder movie, it gets better the more you watch it.
The mythology and the Joseph Campbellian of it all really that what made me kind of go up a little bit because I was like, why didn't I not see this? You know, I think I was so not expecting this type of movie, like you were talking, Zod. You know, I was thinking, oh, it's a zombie, gonna be a zombie, a heist, you know, and then it was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I liked it. But now rewatching it and dissecting those layers, like you're talking about, Zod, and peeling back the layers and engaging with the work, you're starting to see, oh, that's what he was doing. And it kind of starts blowing my mind. I got The Matrix in here. I got Ocean's 11. You got Lord of the Rings, like you mentioned earlier. Like we're getting everything. So I enjoyed it a lot.
How about you, ZodWriter?
For me, I loved it. I loved it from the get-go, and I agree with you guys. With each subsequent viewing, it just gets better and better, and there's so much there. But I have to say that after having this discussion with you guys, I like it even more. I mean, because the stuff that we were able to delve into just through this conversation alone, okay, just goes to show you, the impact of this movie.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I really don't know how this movie could be much better, to be honest. I don't really think, because I think it did everything that it needed to do to set up Army of the Dead, and to elevate Army of the Dead, and to set up this Snyderverse on Netflix. So, yeah.
And for me, it made me even more excited about the universe. Is that about seeing this as an expansive universe, seeing more about these characters. This movie had no right to be as good as it was. This movie should not be as good as it was. This is a heist movie.
It shouldn't exist, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, after talking about with you guys, my score may seem a little high, but here's the thing: we had very few criticisms of this movie. We basically sung this movie's praise. I honestly, this may seem a little high, but I give it a 9.71234896810 out of 10, or 0.10, I'll say, out of 10 for that last part. But it's a great movie. I consider this one a masterpiece, and I don't give many movies a masterpiece rating, but again, I think it's a better movie than Army of the Dead in a lot of ways, and I think it's a fantastic movie. It makes me more excited about the universe, and I really hope to see some of these characters back. I hope to see Gwen. I hope to see Karina back in some of the future movies. I just really maybe we'll see a movie about the two of them rescuing Dieter from Zeus, because Zack confirmed or implied Dieter's alive, because you don't see a character dead, they're not dead.
Of course.
Or die.
He'll be in another timeline again. Zack tapping in on that quantum immortality theory. I'm telling
you were asking about Planet of the Dead. Maybe it's gonna be a sci-fi heist to get Dieter somehow. I don't know. You never know.
I mean, that's the thing that they all have in common. The movies are heist movies so far. So
very true.
I think, again, this is a great movie that really establishes the universe even more. And I was really excited, and this just makes me more excited for Rebel Moon, seeing all the different side stories that could happen in that universe too, that we know is going to happen in that universe, that Zack's going to cast different people in different universes, including, again, as Mikey Sutton scooped, Ezra Miller even maybe might get a side quest. So I'm really excited. I think there's a lot of potential. So I guess now, coming up, Josh, what do you have coming up on your channel?
Actually nothing coming up immediately. But I might be doing something special next month. I don't know yet, but stay tuned. Stay tuned to the socials. I'll see. But I'll just be hanging out with you guys and rocking out. I've been enjoying that you're back, Bat Dan. I've been enjoying late night Q&A with you, Zod. Shout out to you and Robert Byron Burnett and Nessa's Noel. I caught up on those, and those were both fantastic. You're so good, dude.
Oh, thank you.
You're so good.
You have to. I feel the same about both of you guys. You guys are awesome, and honestly, it's always a pleasure to stream both. I would love it if the three of us did something on a weekly basis. I think we could do it because we have so much fun. I mean, even if we call the stream One Punch Dan, and we just, I mean, we call the show One Punch Dan. I mean, and we can talk about all the people that Bat Dan wants to punch. I'm just really, and I know how we could do it too. We could bring up different types of people, and we could say, okay, Bat Dan, on a scale between 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, what's the probability of you punching this person? And we can name these people, we can name these characters. It would be fantastic.
That would be amazing.
Thanks for coming on, ZodWriter. It was a great time having you on, but
okay, but anyway, I just like I said, I've enjoyed this tonight so much. You guys have no idea. This is there's some things that I believe in life are going to happen, Josh, and I have to say that, getting to know you, it has been an absolute pleasure, man. And the more the three of us get to stream together, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Same here. Right back at you, bud.
I agree. And I guess, ZodWriter, what's coming up on your channel?
Well, the road to 100 of late night Q&A it continues, and the next late night Q&A will be episode 98, and I will have Mr. West Ashley on with me. So that should be a nice controversial late night Q&A for everybody who knows Mr. West Ashley, a.k.a. Pilly. So that should be a good show. That should be a good stream. I have no idea how it's going to be, but I intend for it to be fun, as all of them are, and so that's going good. And then mid-April, me and APAS have an episode of I Don't Get It coming up that we'll be doing, which will be nice. It'll be nice to get another one of those out, because that's a very important show, and I absolutely love it as well. And then I got a bunch of stuff coming up with you, Bat Dan, that I'm happy to be doing. And again, Josh, I hope you're involved in a lot of them too, because the more the three of us get to stream together, I think the better off we'll all be.
I'm excited. Let's just say that.
Oh yeah,
yes.
Yep.
Speaking of X,
we'll get to that actually, because I'll go in order here, but we'll definitely get to that. But tomorrow, Sox and I will be doing an episode of Space-tastic Discussions where we will review the first part of Bad Batch Season 3. I'm really excited, and we'll be doing, and like how we've done before, we'll cover some trailers in this as well. We'll cover the Star Wars Acolyte trailer, and also, because the reason why we didn't cover Rebel Moon trailer on this stream is because Rebel Moon is under Space-tastic Discussions, being Zack Snyder Star Wars. Yeah, it's more than that, but there's still some Star Wars elements.
It is connected to these two movies, though.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it like this. I've said this before, is that once it's officially confirmed that Army of the Dead and Army of Thieves is like connected in all ways, shapes, and forms, it is in your heart of hearts. I know, but Ask Sin Havoc. But I'm just saying, though, once it is confirmed, though, to the general audience, I will move over all ArmyVerse content to Space-tastic Discussions. But for now, they will remain on separate shows, Rebel Moon being on Space-tastic Discussions with the Star Wars stuff. So Sox and I will also cover the Rebel Moon Part 2 trailer tomorrow as well. So be on the lookout for that. On Wednesday, ZodWriter will be back along with Trey and Corey of the Bat Channel for Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey Watch Party. And then on Friday, ZodWriter and I will review Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2. And sometime this week, we'll see if this actually happens. I'm going to try to get my remastered review of Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, the first movie. And so, so all this stuff will just look on my channel. You'll see what the times all these shows are. I know I'm kind of going through a lot. And then, so not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday, April 2nd, ZodWriter Sox and I will be doing another episode of the X-Men Review Show presented by Marvelous Discussions. And I'm going to put the link in the channel to on a Twitter group that has Sox, ZodWriter, myself, and Josh. I'll just say it like that. So next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. ESTs, we'll be continuing work. Again, we will be reviewing the original series, Season 1, Episodes 5 through 8. There will be no X-Men 97 spoilers, because if I see that, you're banned. So I have not Because so it's going to be a while before we will cover X-Men 97 eventually, but it's going to be a long process. And there's other shows we're doing on my channel. So be on the lookout for that. A lot of great stuff on this channel. And I will be doing more movies, 2 more movies at least, to get ready for Rebel Moon Part 2. So I had a really great time streaming with you guys. This was a great stream. And yes, we will definitely do this again soon. And guys, if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell for more unique takes, interesting thoughts, and more stories about me punching old ladies, because I know that's not going to go away. And on that note, have a fantastic day.